Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Good to see so many of you right on time. Excellent. Really appreciate you being here. I'm Andrew Carter, the CEO of Global Publishing Group. We'll just give another 30 seconds. Yep, here we go. All the others joining now. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on time. Thank you for giving up your Wednesday night for what will undoubtedly be a very informative session. So let me get straight into it. As I say, I'm Andrew Carter, the CEO of Global Publishing Group and the author of 4 books. And I'm here to show you the #1 single best lead generation tool for your business, bar none. Now, this is about writing a book. This is about creating a best-selling book. This is doing it quicker and easier than anyone else has done it. And this is in particular how to get it distributed to the largest number of people. So this is going to appeal to a wide audience, but it's particularly helpful for business owners, okay? Because this can transform your business and create massive growth far more than any other strategy out there. And I know that sounds like a big claim, okay? Because I'm sure you've heard others make similar claims about their products. But as you'll find over this webinar, the claim is true. I can't stress this strongly enough, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what business you're in. It doesn't matter if you're service or goods or purely an online business. I mean, even if you were just an online influencer, this will work for you. And it is the single most important strategy you can implement in your business. Now, for those of you who probably haven't joined in with a business background, we're going to be concentrating on non-fiction books, okay? In particular, how-to type books. So not the next Harry Potter and not the next Twilight or something like that, but just follow me through, because there's a lot of great detail here. And you've got to understand, I've had an extensive business background before doing what I do now. So I can state categorically that out of all the strategies as a marketer, all the things I've learned and shared, all the businesses I've helped as a coach, all the things I've seen with the businesses I've grown, this is undoubtedly the #1 strategy that works better than anything else. And that's why I'm so excited to be sharing this with you. Now, just letting you know, there is no big sales pitch at the end of this, but I will mention an event I'm running, and for those who want to know more information, okay? So I'm going to get straight into it. Looks like everyone's joining us. We've got a lot of people on the call. Thank you all so much again for joining. Look, I am going to cover a lot of incredible content, but I'm going to move through it quickly, because I want to try and get through this with questions for you in under the hour if we can. So look, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and I'll get to them at the end, okay? We'll talk through them in detail. Now, I'll have to start the, I've got slides to show you. So there we go, sharing the screen. All right, all about your own best-selling book. Now, the tool I want to share with you is one that's been used by some of the greats in business, or many of the greats in business, people like Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, Robert Kiyosaki, and other big names you know, but it's now being used by thousands of business owners just like you. And it works for all of them. And I'm going to cover some examples in this tutorial so that you can see that it would work for you also. So have a think about it. What is it that made these guys the go-to expert or authority in your eyes? You see, to be seen as the authority, first they became an author. Now, stick with me, because some people think, well, this is all just way too hard, it'll take way too long, or they had teams of people to help them. Look, I assure you that this can be done quickly and simply, even if you can't type or write. And as I say, it's the single greatest strategy to gain people's attention, build trust and credibility, and drive them to your website. And I'm going to explain all of that during this webinar. What I want to cover here is why a book is so powerful for you and your business, and it's all to do with people's perception. You see, the perception in society is that people have to become experts first and then be able to write a book about their experience. But that's just not the case. You see, all the experts I've dealt with actually wrote the book first based on what they already knew, and were perceived as an expert as a result of having written a book, and then they attracted a huge following as a result of that. And then they created the products and services they sell. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but this is how it works. And you can do this easily yourself. You see, you need to establish yourself as an expert in your industry. You want to be seen as the authority. Why? Well, when people perceive you as a go-to authority or expert in a certain field, they actively pursue you to purchase your products, services, and advice, and in fact, pay more for it. And you know this to be true. You've done this yourself. okay? You see, to be successful in business, you only have to be able to do two things. First, you must be able to gain attention. And let's face it, you have to gain people's attention to let them know what you're selling, but it's getting harder and harder to do that. See, far too many people think that just by setting up a website or placing an ad or posting on social media or YouTube, that you're going to capture people's attention and make lots of sales. And look, a long time ago, you probably could. However, both the online and offline market are saturated. When you do any of those things today, you just become another Me Too business, another one of millions all doing the same thing. So you need to do something that's really going to make you stand out from the crowd, something that will attract people's attention. Once you've attracted the ideal client, you then need to build trust, because people are reluctant to buy, purchase your goods or services or from anyone because of a lack of trust. Because we've all been burnt before and we don't wish to be so again. So trust becomes the single biggest barrier to making a sale after you've gained a prospect's attention. People like to buy from people they trust, and building that trust usually takes a very long time. Just got to get rid of this little pop-up, my apologies. Those of you using sales funnels probably know that it requires you giving a potential customer something of value for free at least 7 times before they trusted you enough to purchase something from you. Well, a book will do away with all of that, okay? A book about you and your business is the best way to gain attention and build massive trust and credibility. There simply is nothing else like it. And I'm going to go through this in detail, and I'm even going to talk about the different types of publishing at the end of this to give you a bit of a behind the scenes look at what happens in the industry. Now, why is this the case? Well, authors are held in high esteem and are trusted, as is their message. And a large part of that comes from people believing it's difficult to write a book and be published. And it is. And so, unless you have something like this tutorial to show you the simple tips, tricks, and techniques to get it done quickly and easily, even if you can't type or write. We're talking about prestige here. Being an author ranks in the top 10% of professions in terms of prestige. Because of that perception, it must be difficult to do, okay? Look, authors are and always have been highly respected. Society has always looked at published authors as experts in their field, as the authority. So when you are published, you automatically assume that mantle in your field. You never have to go around stating that you are the expert or that you are credible. The book does that for you. Even though you wrote it, the book acts as a third-party independent advocate of you and your business. So you never have to go around saying, I'm the expert or authority. Merely being the author of a book on the subject, the perception is you must be. Now, a lot of people get concerned at this stage. They start thinking, well, you're talking about being the expert. I'm not the expert. No, you're not. We're talking about being number one in your customers' minds, being perceived as the go-to authority in your customers' minds. And I'm going to talk about how we're going to easily create a book for you. And what that will do is it'll actually attract your ideal audience. So from your audience or your tribe, your customers, they will perceive you as the authority. Now, note that all of this refers to a physical book, a published book. You can't gain any real credibility with an ebook, and you're never, ever going to get noticed, yet alone obtain celebrity or expert authority status with one. So it has to be an actual printed book. Now, at this stage, we usually get a lot of problems. A lot of people saying, well, hang on, what about this ebook and these people? And Andrew and Daryl Grant, they've all done well with ebooks. Yes, they have. They've done exceptionally well with ebooks, and they certainly have their place. What we're talking about here is getting a credibility and getting that authority status and getting a lot more free media and PR to drive people to your website. And that only happens with a physical book. And the example I'll give you is, think about any interview show you've ever watched, Oprah or Parkinson, I'm showing my age, Jimmy Fallon, anything you watch, morning shows or evening interview shows, they always bring someone out, don't they? They'll say, here's such and such with his book, such and such. And they actually physically hold the book up to the counter, up to the camera, my apologies. You've never, ever seen them introduce someone with, and here's so-and-so, the author of this ebook. It's never, ever happened. It's not how it works, all right? So regardless of what business you're in, you need a physical book to create your credibility and personal brand awareness and grab attention to be seen as the expert, and then use that to drive traffic to your online site. Now, when it comes to sales, we all know you need to gain a prospect's attention and gain trust. And being an author gains attention like nothing else. People are hungry for information. They're hungry for the answers they need, right? And the internet has too much information, and much of it is contradictory, and a lot of it is from dubious sources. So where do you go to get trusted information? Well, a book. I mean, maybe you're old enough to remember a time before the internet, before Google and Yahoo and Alta Vista. Where did people go to get information then? Books. And guess what? People still do so today. The advent of the internet has not killed the printed book like it has for magazines. If anything, it strengthened the demand for it, especially during COVID lockdowns when the demand for books, especially the how-to type books I want to talk to you about on this call, went through the roof. Now, here's the interesting statistic to remember in this country. About 88% of all book sales are still physical books, with only 12% being the Kindle ebook type and the audio books. That makes up that as well, okay? So now, here's the truly beautiful part. When someone reads your book, you then have their attention completely and utterly for at least a few hours. Maybe not all at once, but if they finish your book, they have effectively had a one-on-one session with you for a few hours. And what has effectively happened is that you, the author, have just spent several hours with this person, building credibility and trust and positioning yourself as the authority, as the go-to expert. If nothing else, you've proven that you know more than them, and that's what they're looking for. Who knows more about this and who can help me? Now, remember, you've done this without ever having left your home, without ever having spent 1 minute on the phone or in person with that person, right? It is the ultimate form of leveraging your time. So the book builds trust and credibility. It positions you as the expert, and it leverages your time. And it also gets you access to clients that you may not have otherwise been able to reach. And I'll talk about that more a bit later. Positioning yourself as the authority makes your competition effectively irrelevant. Most people aren't even aware of that. So now let's look at how to create the complete book quickly and easily, because I'm sure that's what most of you have come on for. Now, I want to just quickly bust a few myths here. I haven't got time to go through all of them. There's 7 key myths, but I want to cover the main ones here, because it's the myths and misconceptions about writing a book that hold a lot of people back. And it's a good thing that people out there believe these to be true, especially the general public, or more importantly, your potential customers or clients. If they think that way, that's why they respect authors. That's why they perceive them to be so capable and credible. So let me dispel some of these myths here for you now, so you can concentrate on creating your own book. And of course, the very first myth is it takes a long time to write a book. No, it doesn't. And you don't even have to write it. We're going to cover all that tonight. So start with the end in mind. Who is your target audience? What sort of clients or customers are you trying to attract, and which ones are you trying to repel? Because that's very important also. Now, you want to keep a very clear idea about that as you progress. And when you know that, and you know what you want your book to do for you, you must know what the end of the book is. It must be some sort of call to action, whether you're going to get people to purchase goods and services of yours, or whether you're going to just drive them to your website, or what is it you want the people to do after having read your book and establishing that you're the authority. Working out an introduction is pretty easy. Now you've got the introduction and the end. All you need to do is work out the steps between those, okay? All you've got to do is get some A4 sheets of paper and write down the logical step between introduction and conclusion. Those headings have now become your new chapter titles. And under each chapter title, just write down some bullet points, the points that you need to discuss to get through that chapter and onto the next one. Now, it's really simple. Just pick up your smartphone or your tablet, or just hit record on your computer and read out each of those chapter titles, read out the chapter title, and then start talking to the bullet point underneath it. Do that with each chapter, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. A how-to book should be around 150 pages. Try and make it less than 150 pages. And what we know through all the distribution we do, all the companies we deal with, we have a very good relationship with most of the distributors and the big ones like Booktopia and Amazon. We know statistically that if a book is more than 180 pages, the sales drop right off. We're talking about these non-fiction how-to type books, right? Very few people buying books over 180 pages. They want the answers now. So that's what's going to happen. But if it's more than 150 pages, less people actually finish reading it. And you really want them to finish reading your book, as only then are they likely to recommend it to others, or maybe even pass on their copy to a friend. So 150 or pages or less, right? And that works out at 30,000 words. Now, given the normal rate of speech, which admittedly is slightly slower than I'm speaking now, I want to get as much into this call as I can for you guys. You should be able to speak that many words in 2 hours and 47 minutes. So think about that. In just under 3 hours, you could have completed that exercise I told you to, spoke it out, and you've actually got all the content of your book. Then you just need to have the recording transcribed. Now, I use otter.ai, so you don't even have to have a separate recording. If you've got otter.ai running in the background, you just start talking and it automatically transcribes and records it for you. Some people are going to go and put the audio up on a, one of these sites, freelance sites, to be able to get people to do it for them. So you can use fiverr.com, freelancer.com, upworks.com, or guru.com. Okay. Some of them may be using otter.ai themselves, so that's why I'd ask you to check it out. And look, I think it's a very good real-time transcription service. It translates speech to text with reasonable accuracy. They're talking about 90%. You do definitely need to check it after you've used it. Otherwise, just get one of these people to do it. Now, some of you on this call, I don't doubt, have heard of Ian Marsh, right? And this is his book, The Inconvenient Truth About Business Success, that we published for him. This was created exactly the way I've just described to you. Now, he didn't have smartphones back then. It was all done on a dictaphone, and he just uploaded it to a freelance site and he got the book done. Now, I want you to understand this. He knew who his ideal client was. He knew what he wanted them to do. So that book has been designed to attract certain people and get them to buy into a certain course. And that book that he never typed, or he never even picked up a pen, and he created in under half a day, that book has generated almost $600,000 for his business. That is the power of a book. All right, so the point is there are plenty of inexpensive options available to have an entire book written for you in your words and done quickly. But in your words is the important part here. You see, another myth is that you need to have a university education and a degree to be taken seriously as an author and to be able to write in an academic way. Please don't do that, okay? Have you ever read an academic paper? They are boring and full of jargon, and they're suitable really only for other academics in the same field. You don't want that. You want to write something that pretty much anyone can read and understand. And to do that, you want to write, or in this case, just talk, as if you were conversing with a 15-year-old. Talk the way you talk and let your sense of humor and personality come through. That is what the reader connects with. That's what builds that bond and trust between reader and author. And ultimately, that's what you're after. Now, look, I've just thrown this picture in of John Gray because most of you know of him. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And you can see he does have a PhD after his name. He's a doctor. All right, the important thing to note is John was not that way inclined. And John is a terrible speller. As he says, thank goodness for spelling check. John actually used the content for that book to submit as his thesis. So after the book, he actually attained the PhD. Just a little fun fact. Another one, you have to create the book yourself to have your name on it. No, another myth. Do you really believe, say, presidents and prime ministers have the time to sit and write or even dictate their memoirs? Think about some of the athletes you see on TV. They're struggling to put more than 2 coherent sentences together, and yet they come out with lengthy autobiographies. Well, surely that's got to leave you wondering, how did they ever manage that? And the answer is simple. The books have been ghostwritten, right? Ghostwriters are professional writers who interview you, learn your story, what the desired outcome is for your book, and they actually learn the way you speak. They want to, introduce a little bit of your humor. They want to know the language you use and the turn of phrase you use. So from there, they can go and write a complete manuscript for you. And the work is then published as your own with your name as the author. The ghostwriter's name does not appear anywhere on the book. Now, you can find ghostwriters through an online search or through the freelance services I mentioned previously. Now, I didn't know that this was a myth or a concern, but a lot of people out there apparently have approached me. A lot of people have approached me apparently having this concern. If you get your books printed and you've got to get it done in bulk to make it cost effective, you'll be left with a garage full of books like that. Well, that's Sharon. That's one of our authors. And the reason she's not looking concerned, in fact, has a smile on her face, is because those books are already pre-sold. And that's one of the things we teach. We teach people how to effectively market correctly. And before the book is even printed, we've usually pre-sold 500, 1,000, or even 2,000 copies of a book. No one else really knows how to do that. That's one of our key strengths. Another classic myth is books don't make any money, and that is true if you're using a traditional publisher. If you use an entrepreneurial publisher, you can make large amounts, and I'm going to show you some of those soon, of money before your book is even printed, and a lot more once it is. Give me a little bit later in this call, and I'll cover the 3 different types of publishing in detail for you so you know what to look for. Now, one of the ways you can do this through entrepreneurial publishing is to sell advertising in your book. And the secret here is not to call it advertising, because if you were writing a book of information and you've only got 150 pages, there's only so much room, and you want to give your readers as much help as you can, right? So you owe it to them to provide other avenues to get more information and assistance. So therefore, you should include a resources section at the back of your book. Now, you should be the #1 resource, but you can sell additional pages in that section to other businesses for them to advertise their products or services. And because the life of a book is about 5 years, you can substantially increase the price of what they would currently be paying for magazine or other print advertising. So depending on what industry you're in, a page in a book for advertising can easily sell anywhere from $10,000 to $14,000. Another of our authors used exactly this technique with her first book, How to Grow Your Business Faster Than Your Competitors, and she generated $40,000 by selling spots at almost $10,000 each. And then she took all of her expenses out of that. So she effectively sold 5 spots at $10,000 each. Now that's $40,000 net she made before the book was even printed. And she's just one of many of our authors who have succeeded using this method. Next myth, the book has to be about you, right? Well, no, you don't need to be the expert to be seen as an expert. Celebrity, authority, and status all comes down to perception, positioning, and passion. And you people all have the passion. You're on this call, if nothing else. So another way to gain authority is to leverage off the credibility and knowledge of already established leaders in your field. And that could be anyone. That could be however you decide to do it. So what we're looking at is compilation books, the halo effect. This is a really powerful method that you need to consider, where you can go and interview other experts in your field and be perceived as an expert yourself because of what your involvement was in it. So let me talk about that in detail. The halo effect is credibility by association, right? So if you interviewed all those people, you must, and they are successful and knowledgeable, then you must be successful and knowledgeable too by association, because why else did they let you do that book on them? And because you're an author. This particular book, I want to cover an example because this is an excellent example of a compilation book, and each of you on this call could do this, right? This book made made $251,000 worth of income before it was even printed. And I want to break that down and show it to you. Now, what he did is he was introducing, he was new to the franchise sector himself. So he wasn't a top franchise CEO, and he was bringing in a brand new franchise into Australia. So what he basically did is he went and interviewed all the top franchisors around Australia and laid out their interviews in a compilation and just had that printed. And that's how he got this done. And so what happens then is, even though you don't know him or you don't know his brand, because he's positioned between Brumbies and Boost Juice and La Porchetta Pizza and Clark Rubber and Leonard's Chicken and stuff like that, because you know all of those brands, well, if he's in that same book, he too must be a trusted brand. That's just the way your subconscious mind works. That's what we talk about, association or halo effect. So as I say, when he went to interview those people, what he said to them is, look, it's really simple. I'm going to help give you far more coverage. I'm going to get you a lot of free media and PR. You're going to be able to sell more franchises as a result. All I'm asking you to do is to pre-purchase 1,000 copies of the book. I'll give it to you at a discounted rate, but that's what I want you to do, and that will help generate more interest in this book. So he did that, and for a book that retails for $29.95, the 14 contributors all paid $9.95 for 1,000 books. So it's actually quite cheap advertising if you think about it from their perspective. For less than 10 grand, which is very cheap advertising cost, they're getting 1,000 books that they can use to give away at trade shows or exhibitions or whatever's required to help build their business. They could go on and sell them if they wanted to, in which case they'd actually make $20,000 profit. Or what I would do is I would just give them on to my franchisees and I'll let them sell them for extra income in the business. He then went and approached advertisers, like I just mentioned to you before. You want to get people in your resources section. And he said, listen, we'll give you 500 books at half price and you get a full page ad in the back of the book. And so he sold another $112,125. That's 15 advertisers doing that. So as I said to you, that total revenue comes to over $250,000. Now, obviously you have to subtract the cost of the production of the books from that, but that still leaves a total in profits of $144,000. Now, think about this, okay? I mean, most businesses in Australia are struggling to make $144,000 profit in a year. This was made in just 2 weeks. In 2 weeks before the book was even printed, before he even had the product. This is an incredibly powerful thing to do, but more so from my point of view, I like the fact that he pre-sold 21,500 books because that puts him on the instant bestseller list. And we're going to talk about bestsellers on this call because being a bestseller actually helps generate far more interest. You get a lot more free media and PR. And because you're a bestseller, the bookstores want to take your books on in massive numbers and you sell far more through the bookstores. So this has been an incredible opportunity. And look, do you think he's the only one who could do it? No. Could you do it? Of course you could. Look, to prove it wasn't a fluke, this guy went on and did the same example multiple times, okay? And even though his book was on franchising, it could easily be done on a collection of real estate agents. Same concept, right? Interview all the best real estate agents. Or maybe you're in some sort of natural health and you want to do something on that. Go out and interview health professionals, chiros, physios, massage therapists, naturopaths, nutritionists, whatever, and do a book on that. The number of potential industries you could do this in is huge, right? Now, just to prove it's not a fluke, as I say, Darren's gone and done it several times, but this guy, Pete Burden, he asked, well, why can't I do the same thing but in my home country? Well, you can. There's nothing to stop you. So he followed that model exactly, and he produced New Zealand's Top Franchise Leaders Secrets Revealed. And he generated over $120,000 in just 2 weeks before the book was even printed. Obviously, it's only increased substantially from there. So you can see it works each time you do it, and you can do many different topics. And it's really exciting what's possible. But look, let me get back to generating money from your book because there's far more potential than most people ever realize. And this is what most people look at, the money that's made from the sales of the book, or in this case, the money made from the advertising space sold in the back of the book. However, the real wealth from a book comes from the credibility and positioning the book gives you and the other sales you make as a result of that. By driving people from your book to your website, you create a large database of hot clients. And this ultimately is where the money is going to be made. From them, from sales of the other products or services you offer through your website or your current business, to a list of pre-qualified and hot buyers who already accept you as the expert in your field and have already built that trust, that bond and that connection because of your book. So I want to show you this example because this is another classic. This is Conrad Bobolak, and he actually attended our 3-day workshop without having an established business. And by that, I mean he was currently working for National Australia Bank at the time. He didn't have a business. He didn't have a business name. He didn't have any real thoughts. He had no leads, no premises, nothing, right? But he learned about the game behind the game at the workshop and immediately understood it and was blown away by the potential of it. So he decided right then and there to set up his ultimate lifestyle to work when he wanted, where he wanted, and pay himself $1 million a year. Now, he'd never earned anything like that before, right? So during the workshop, he started to craft his book around the game behind the game, and he completed the book. You can see there, Australian Property Finance Made Simple, which easily became a bestseller through our system. He created his websites and a YouTube channel around the book designed to attract his ideal client. More than that, it actually repelled those who weren't. So he wasn't wasting his time on the wrong people. Now, using the book, he has genuinely created a company from nothing, which is now paying him $1 million a year income. And yet to this day, his company has not ever spent one single dollar on advertising the business. Not one. I want you to think about that. This is the power of a book. So yes, he spends some money advertising his book because the book works as the ultimate lead generator for him. It's the book that attracts people, builds that trust and confidence, sends them to the website, and that's where his real business begins. Now, as Conrad says, the real benefit of a book is that it reaches the type of clients he wants, but could never reach himself. People like airline pilots flying internationally, they pick up his book on the news agents in London airport and get off at New York, and they contact him wanting to do business. He's got expat surgeons who are looking to come back to Australia and trying to minimize their tax. They read his book and then they contact him ready to buy. These are people who are already avid fans and trust him enough to do multi-million-dollar deals, even without ever meeting him face-to-face, all because of his book. Okay, that is the power of it. People just underestimate what's required, the effect it has having an actual physical book. Now, what's the interesting bit about Conrad is he has given his entire system to two other mates. His friends are in the same industry. He can't handle all the work, so he gave them everything, all of his contacts, all of his email trail, all of his list, all of his scripts to close people. He's given his solicitors, he's given his Facebook people, all of his social media contacts. He's given everything he could to these people and shown them a system, a simple 20-step system to follow and to be as successful as him. Now, interestingly, he earns $1 million a year from his strategy. His mates make zero. What do you think the one difference is? What do you think is the one thing that's missing? They don't have a book. And it really is that simple. And as he says, that's more proof than he needed that the book is the number one lead generator and the absolute missing link in most businesses. Businesses that are struggling usually is because they don't have this one key ingredient. And so he doesn't know why his friends didn't write a book, whether they just thought it was too hard or it was too long or it was just insignificant. They couldn't see that it was necessary, even though he impressed upon them. It is the single most important part of your business. All right, it doesn't matter whether you're an online business or offline business, this is really going to make you stand out, okay? So you want to attract this attention and you want to make more money from your book. The sales of your book is not where you're going to make money. It's the game behind the game and the products that you sell from it. And you can easily create other products from the content of your book and sell them to the people who have read your book and want more from you. And classic example, you all know of Tony Robbins. You've all seen and heard of his success. And look, it starts with a book. But of the people who buy his book, a lot of people want more from him. And this is typical of all authors, not just big name ones like that. When you get your book out there, people do want more from you. And so he offers courses. Some of them are simple courses. Some of them will be e-classes. Some of them will be online tutorials with written video and audio things in there in a workbook. And so you can see that they range in price. And then a lot of the people who do that will still want more from Tony. So they can go on and do a 1 or a 2 day event. It's going up to those sort of prices. Those who want more might step up to a 2 or 3 day event. Those who want more are going to step up to his boot camps and workshops, 4 or 5, maybe even 7 day sort of things. And you can see it's a big jump in price. Now, obviously, you're losing people along the way. Not everyone who reads your book is going to step up this value ladder. But look, those who do, those who want access to the man himself are paying $85,000 US each a year just to get into his high-end coaching program. So could you do it? Yes, you certainly can. And you should be doing exactly the same thing. You should have a physical book to establish yourself as the authority and to build that trust and credibility. When people read it, they'll want more from you. So it's easy to go online and you can actually have people at those freelancer sites I showed you create courses for you from your book. Now, you could do an event yourself. I know that's not for everyone. And then you can definitely do group coaching, small group coaching or one-on-one. Now, some people at this stage listening to this call balk at $30,000 a year going, well, no one's going to pay me $30,000 a year. They will if you've written a book. The book is what establishes you as the authority, and you've proven through that you have more knowledge than them. This is your ideal audience, and they're going to want your experience. They're going to want your assistance, and people will pay. $30K a year works out to $2.5K a month. if someone's going to be able to provide you with information that can help you, some people will certainly pay that sort of money. So this is the sort of thing that you can do, okay? All right, only producing a 150-page book. For those wanting extra information, have that listed on your website. This creates a list of people who have read your book and already trust you. Because what's going to happen is if you've got graphical information or pictorial information, or maybe you're trying to explain some difficult concept, you want to put a video on your website, and each time you're driving people to your website and they have to sign in, they have to give their name and email to get this extra free information, okay? And that's what's going to create a list of hot buyers for you, and that is what's going to be truly beneficial to your business in the future. Look, it doesn't matter if you're online or offline, your book is going to make you stand out, gain massive credibility, and grow your business exponentially the entire time, leaving you so far out ahead from your competition that they become irrelevant. Another quick example, I just want to show you what's possible here, because I want you guys to start thinking differently. I don't want you thinking traditionally, because there's no future in that. This is Jason Smith, Get Yourself Back in Motion, a physiotherapist. He franchised it, and they had 60 locations around the country. They had like 350 staff, and they were the largest such group in Australia. And the business turned around about $60 million a year. But Jason understood the game behind the game and how to use the book to promote himself, his franchise, and even his franchisees. And he ended up having 13,000 copies of his book printed in the first print run. And he's gone on to do other print runs, right? So as a result, he literally received close to $500,000 worth of free media and PR. And as you could imagine, that transformed his company. What would that sort of free media and PR do for you and for your business? Now, very quickly, let's just have a look. He actually you could get an advertiser. So not just selling them space in the back of the book, you could charge more to have them on the front of the book. You may be able to get the authoritative body in your industry to get their logo on the front of your book, which would give you more credibility, be that halo effect. Jason then put pictures of each of the franchisees in there. And so he actually put their name under his. And so it kind of looks like they co-authored the book, which isn't necessarily what's happened, but they then get copies themselves that they can distribute through their local marketing, their local area, and that gives them the same credibility and prestige and helps grow their individual business, right? Now, this obviously took the brand to a whole new level, and it generated media on a scale that Jason just initially couldn't comprehend. Now, Jason's game behind the game was to increase the number of franchisees, then list on the stock exchange as his exit strategy. And the book allowed him to gain not just more franchisees, but more value from each of those. And so the cost of selling a franchise went up as well. And so that helped the overall value of the business, and meaning that he eventually sold this to an ASX-listed health group for $125 million. And that's why I make such a big deal about the game behind the game for authors, because that's what actually can be achieved. And yet it all starts with a book, one single book. And now the amount of media and PR he got is just typical for many of our authors. I'm going to show you an example of some of the others this is Karina Francois. Now, Karina had a traditional bricks and mortar type naturopath business, okay? She was struggling. Well, how do you grow a business? Well, you need to attract attention and build trust, right? That's what a book does better than anything else. So if you're struggling in business, create a physical book. And she came up with Clean Food, Clear Thinking, Change Your Body, Change Your Mind. And this has absolutely been amazing what this has done for her. She, as a result of that, so many magazines, online and offline, have approached her and wanted her to do articles for them. Now, you're not having to create new content here at all. You're simply lifting bits out of your book and sending it to them, or they're doing that for you and just putting your picture, your name on there. But that's building your brand, your notoriety, establishing you more as the authority, as the expert. So much so that other magazines, having seen that, then got her to become a regular columnist for them. And you can see some of those there. Again, this can be fairly typical. What's more, now that she was a traditional bricks and mortar business, she didn't really you can't be a naturopath around the world, but what she was able to do now is she's driving people to a website, as I suggested. She's created this hot list. She went and white labeled, the term we'll talk about later, her own tea range, and she now sells this tea range around the world. So she's got a whole new source of income that she wouldn't have had without the book. Okay, this is what's possible. When I'm talking about your passion, turn your passion into a book. This woman turned it into a book, a business, effectively. Look, what's your passion? Shopping. So Joe Munro wrote a book about the savvy shopaholic, effectively just a shopaholic's guide. Okay, and she has literally gone on to make over 200 television appearances as a result. The channels wanted to, Channel 10 and 9 and 7, I think it was, in particular, kept getting her to come back on and talk about the latest hot tips, the latest shopping and stuff like that. But this has established her as the expert, as the authority, as the brand when it comes to buying and purchasing. So an online jewelry manufacturer then contacted her and asked, would you be the brand ambassador for our online jewelry range? And we'll actually name it after her. And that's exactly what's happened, all right? And so she's gone on and created, she gets paid a percentage of all this just for being the brand ambassador, just for having a face on there. So look, a book can provide so many opportunities that you never saw coming. Jo certainly never saw a jewelry line named after her. She never expected to even be on television. She's just not the typical look of the typical TV presenter. So this opened doors that she would never have otherwise been able to do. Regardless of what subject you decide to write about, what your book will get you that many people don't realize is access to other influencers and ideal clients. It is the perfect way to share your message, build your brand, support a charity, or make a massive difference to many others whilst creating your own legacy. Now, these are the ways you should be using a best-selling book. Especially in business, you should be using it as a business card, as the best lead generation tool you can come up with. It'll unlock doors you can't usually access, attract your perfect customer and repel those who aren't, increase your sales and prices, get free media and PR, position yourself as the expert, make you the market leader. And this happens if a book is done correctly. And that's the important part, because see, most people just look at a book as written information easily disseminated. That's the traditional view. That's how we've thought about books for centuries, right? But what we're trying to do here for you is much, much more. We're going to use the book, if it's written correctly, as a tool to develop your personal branding, to establish you as the authority or the expert. It will create content marketing. You've got all of this content you can just pull out of your book to put into magazines like Katrina did previously, or to put on blogs or your social media. It will build that list of hot buyers, people who are predisposed to buy from you and want more. It'll give you speaking opportunities. I understand not all of you probably want to speak from the stage, but it can be very lucrative if you do it. And people will approach you wanting to speak on their stage because they perceive you as the expert. You get so much free press and media coverage as a result of having a book that the media are always looking for the experts, and the experts in their eyes are people who've published a book. That's the irony of it. Even though you've got the same information before you wrote the book, you're not perceived as an expert by most people. As soon as you put that information in a book and it's published, you must be an expert. Joint ventures, other people are going to approach you wanting you to work with them because the book has increased your value. And it builds confidence, not just within you, but within your customers as well. It's going to open doors you didn't even know were there. It leverages your time and it builds wealth. Now, let's quickly talk about the publishing, because this is the important part. And most people have this conception that you just go and write a manuscript, you send it to the publisher, they're just so happy to have it because there's nothing else to do. They're always looking for content. So they go and finish your book, they send it to the distributor who puts it in the bookstores, the customer buys it and everyone gets rich. Well, I don't know what fantasy land that's in, but it's not the real world. Two things. First and foremost, most publishers have far more manuscripts than they can ever handle. So they send out far more rejection emails or letters than they ever do ones of acceptance. And I mean far more. And then there's a lot of, well, I'll talk about all the different types of problems with different types of publishing, but there's not a lot of money to be made in that, certainly not for the author. So that, although it applies, as I say, is the common misconception, it's definitely not the case. So let's look at traditional publishing, and that's the one you're all familiar with. That's what's been going on for centuries. That's when you walk into a bookstore. Most of the books you see there have come from a traditional publisher. You can see some of the brand names down the bottom there. Now, the problem is they really want well-known or established proven authors, right? They're reluctant to, because it's an expensive exercise publishing books and distributing them, they really want someone that they know is going to prove successful. They have all the say in your design. Most people don't realize this. You don't get any say in how the cover looks. You don't get any say in the colors that are used. You don't get any say in the typesetting or anything. They choose it. And in fact, they actually determine what the price of your book is. You cannot advertise or market in your book. So if you do that bit I showed you before, the resources section, if you were to approach people and get them to pay to advertise in your book, and you put that in your book, the publisher, traditional publisher, will not allow it. And so you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. If you did want to buy your book back to sell them at seminars or schools or whatever else you might be doing, you actually have to purchase your own book back from them at 50%. You got to pay half the cost up front. Now, I've got here, this is conservative. They say it takes 12 to 18 months to bring your book to market. I'm dealing with a couple of established authors at the moment who are on their second or even third book going through a traditional publisher, and they tell me, no, it's more like 18 months to 2 years. And one of them says it's at least 2 years, and she has a real problem with that because, as she said, most of the content of her book is out of date within 2 years. So to take that long to get to market is just ridiculous. Now, as I say, if you think you're going to get rich from that, you're definitely not. They pay you 3 to 5% of the cover price. So on a $30 book, you may be able to make $1.50, but because they set the cover price, it might only be $15 or $20, in which case you're only making 40, 50 cents. The good thing about traditional publishers is they will handle all the distribution and bookstore orders and sales. That's great. What they don't tell you is that you still need to market it yourself. You actually have to market your own book. They're unlikely to do so. So as a result of all this, because it's so hard to get picked up by a traditional publisher and because of all those limitations, a lot of people have turned to self-publishing. And with the increase in technology over the last 10 years, why wouldn't you? We're getting much better looking books than ever before. And of course, there's heaps of advantages to that. You make a lot more money, right? So whatever price you sold it for, just subtract the cost of the book and that's all yours. That's profit. More flexibility to sell your books into other markets. Well, we say no restrictions there, but as you'll find out, it's very hard to get self-published books into bookstores. You get to the printers sooner, 16 weeks versus 18 months, and I think that's the main attraction for people. Also, you get to keep control of your work and design, so you can design the cover however you want, lay it out any way you want, put all the advertising and stuff you want in it. You have to design, proofread. Okay, so the limitations then are there are legal requirements to having a book published, and you've got to meet all of those requirements. And they're not something you can just type in online and find it, because you think about it, why would traditional publishers want to make it easy for self-publishers? So you do need to have some industry knowledge to get this all done correctly. You want to get your book designed, proofread, laid out and printed to international publishing standards. You've got to arrange the barcodes and ISBN numbers. You've got to register with the national libraries. You've got to lodge a sample book. You have to request international library cataloguing numbers, and you have to hold and warehouse all your stock. And I think that's where that myth comes from, with people being stuck with garages full of books. You have to package, ship and deliver to your resellers weekly if you've got any. And you have to find a book distributor. But guess what? Here's the problem. Book distributors don't like dealing with self-publishers because otherwise they'd be dealing with thousands of them. So then you have to find bookstores who will buy your books, but that's the same problem. Bookstores deal with distributors because they don't want to have to be dealing with individual authors, and distributors won't deal with you unless you're a publisher. So it becomes this catch-22. Bookstores only deal with distributors or major publishers. And here's the thing, book buyers don't like self-published books. This may sound a bit snobbish, and a lot of people tell me, oh, well, there's no difference between the book I publish and the books you see in stores. I guarantee you that there are. If you're in the industry, or if you're a real bibliophile, you just love books, you can tell straight away. It really is so easy. By turning to the back of the book and then opening it up and just looking inside, you can tell straight away if a book's been self-published. And a lot of the traditionalists don't like that, and they just turn their nose up at it, okay? So what is needed, it was an entrepreneurial publisher. And this is how Global Publishing Group started 15 years ago. It was basically taking the best of traditional publishing and the best of self-publishing and doing away with all of those negatives, but creating a distribution outlet. So people could produce the book the way they wanted to, with a hell of a lot of assistance, and we're learning all the tips and tricks and techniques behind the scenes. And they were then able to have a book out in the marketplace, attracting far more attention and positioning themselves at a higher level. So The entrepreneurial publisher makes it easier and far more profitable for you. Now, we've done this for thousands of authors. We've covered this sort of information in great detail. We've produced or printed, published hundreds and hundreds of their books, as you can see there. And as a percentage of authors published, we have created the highest number of best-selling authors. We've literally created tons and tons of print media, online and offline. That's just a mere sample of it. So my question to you is, you've obviously come on this call because you're interested in having your own book. Well, how would you feel walking into a bookstore and seeing your book on a shelf like that? And if you are in business, having a book about you or your business, what do you think that would do for your brand? What would it do for your business? And how would that increase in business make you feel? That's Conrad Bobolak, who I was talking about before, the real estate book. As you can see, all the awards he's won for all his best-selling contributions. He's actually got 2 books out, working on his 3rd. But he walked past he was in a shopping center and his daughter came running out of a bookstore going, Daddy, your book's in the bookstore. And so he had to send us this picture because you can see his position between Tony Robbins and Warren Buffett and right above Robert Kiyosaki. How do you think that made him feel? That made his daughter feel even. And again, you've seen the results that was creating for his business. So look, I had to pack a lot into this, and I've tried to give you as much of an overview as I can. But what we do is we run, and we only ever run them 1, sometimes 2 times a year. We run a How to Write a Bestseller and Grow Your Brand workshop. And it's a 3-day event. And I'm going to be running one in Brisbane in 3 weeks' time, I think it is. So 24th to 26th of March, Voco Convention Centre, a beautiful location, 85 North Quay, Brisbane. And look, it's really interesting. I'm going to cover everything in so much more detail, and you're going to learn all the secrets behind the trade, how quickly to create a book, and I'll talk more about that secondly. But look, this is a unique event, and it's not a multi-speaker pitch fest. We don't have a whole lot of people getting up trying to flog their wares to you, right? This is a workshop. We're going to get you in there and get you actively working on and finishing the hardest parts of your book. Now, it's not a teaser. I don't just give you enough to whet your appetite. I'm going to give you everything that you need. That said, I'm not going to talk for 3 days straight. It's an interactive workshop where we work together. We're going to break you down to small groups. We're going to work with you in groups and individually to come up with a concept for your book and a business. As I said, people like Conrad and others have turned up not having a business concept to start with. And so we actually help them with the business concept, the game behind the game, and the book. And we actually work on it in real time with real feedback and guidance along the way. Now, you're going to receive an informative, like there's a 130-page guidebook we have, and we work through that in real time. So you're going to leave the workshop with your title and subtitle done and tested, and there is a science behind this to make them best-selling books. You're going to have the front and rear cover design brief completed and the idea for the chapters of your book all done, right? That's the hardest parts already completed. All you have to do then is go and create the content in like 3 to 4 hours, as I showed you earlier. Now, what we're covering that weekend, how long do you think that would take if you weren't at the workshop? I mean, a lot of the authors that come through say to us, well, if I hadn't done this, it would have been another 3 to 5 years before I ever got my book started, yet alone completed. More than that, we're going to cover a whole lot of truly innovative and creative ways to market your book far more effectively than anyone else is doing. Again, positioning you far above any competition. So in all honesty, this will be one of the most exciting things you do in your career, and it's a game changer for your business. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing with others, because once you know this and what happens from it, you'll be so grateful you did this, okay? So look, just to let you know, if you are interested, we're going to answer questions shortly, but I am rewarding action takers. We're only 3 weeks out. If you want to take action on this call, general entry tickets are $97. That covers Friday, Saturday, Sunday, covers the workbook, and morning and afternoon teas are laid on. The food is absolutely bloody beautiful. You've only got to take care of your own lunch. But for those of you, gold tickets are $297, and they not only include the workbook, but $1,500 in bonuses. So from this webinar, you can claim a gold ticket for a general entry price, meaning you get a gold ticket with all of the bonuses, not for $297, for $97, okay? And that's how to do it. Go to www.bestsellerevent.com. Simply go on and read through. You can see a lot more information there. You can look at a lot of the testimonials. You can see Conrad Bobolak talking from stage about how successful this has been for him and many others. When you purchase the silver ticket for $97, simply email us. The details are there, or call us if you want, and we'll automatically upgrade you to the gold ticket. So look, I know that's very quick. We've had a lot to do there in a very short period of time. Let me just open up the chat box. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Is there anything? I know it was quick, people, but I've tried to get through as much as I can. Please let me know what questions you've got, any further information you require. If you haven't got any questions, just let me know what you thought about the webinar. Was it worthwhile? Did it give you, a score out of 1 to 5 would be good. Just give us a score, give me some feedback and let me know. And we're always here to try and help other authors and create more books out there, because most people don't realize that year on year, since 2011, physical book sales have increased. They have increased year on year. Now, obviously, that hit its peak in 2021 during the COVID lockdowns. But even now in 2022 and leading into 2023, the sales of physical books are already higher than they were for pre-COVID. All right, you've already published a book. Can you assist in the marketing of them? Yes, we can. We just ran a marketing weekend last weekend. That email went out to the database, which I'm assuming you got this from. Look, we will be running another one later in the year, and it's a really intensive 2 days. We cover everything in that 2 days. But why don't you, Warren, send us an email through just admin@globalpublishinggroup.com.au. Give us some more information about your book and when it was done and where you're at with it, and we'll see what we can do. I'm just going to put the link in here now, so you can just click on the link and go straight to the website. And as I say, if you want to book that silver ticket, we'll automatically upgrade you to a gold ticket. So just click on that, bestsellerevent.com. Has anyone got any other questions, any feedback at all? Let me know what you thought of the webinar. Everyone's gone very quiet. I do appreciate all. Here we go. Thank you for the webinar. Good on you. Thank you, Wendy. Yep, I love talking about it. It is my favorite thing. It is my passion, and it's amazing what difference we have made out in the space out there. So we're doing a lot to help as many people as we can, because this is one of the biggest game changers in your business. As I say, most people who end up doing this find out this was the missing piece. This was the bit that their business was struggling without. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Look, we'll finish it up there right on the hour. That worked out very well. I really do appreciate you taking time out on your Wednesday night to, join in, and we hope you got plenty of content out of it. Looks like everyone who's making comments is saying they did. If you've got any questions at all, please feel free to email us anytime. So, admin@globalpublishinggroup.com.au. Otherwise, as I say, I'll put that link back in there again just before we finish up. Bestseller, oops, I've touched too many buttons there. Event.com. Click on that and book the ticket. Love to see you at the seminar, a 3-day workshop. You're going to love it. Everyone walks out there, a huge smile on their face. You're going to get so much value out of it. And look forward to seeing you there and on the best-selling list. So all the very best to all of you. Thank you again for your time, and have a good night. Bye.